but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. Delighted to say I'm joined by Neil, by Mitch, by Steve, by Keith, Andy and Mearns, who will be here for the first hour and a bit. Joe Walker will be joining us later on. He's got a few odds to give you for the Champions League final, I think, and the playoff final. So we'll be joined by him as Ian departs. But let's get cracking, I guess, with tonight's show. And it's where to start, really. Dan Ashworth, I think. Ian, let's start with him. And Stu Pember on Wednesday night on our show broke the news that he was in town. He'd been here for a couple of days. He's trying to get his deal over the line. Is that the reason Newcastle probably haven't started off as quickly as people were hoping they would, with a potential links with transfers being made definite? Do you think they're just waiting for him to take his place?
Well, that's part of it. But personally, from my perspective, I prefer when there's no damn speculation about who we're going to buy, because all that does is put the price up. There's no doubt about that. And of course, the window doesn't actually open until, I think, with the 10th of June. So we've got a couple of weeks, before the window officially opens. And I know it's good to get some preparatory work done, but the speculation in the press has been that Dan Ashworth will be at the club by next week.
Yeah, I mean, it's speculation, Steve, which we got on Wednesday night from Stu. It was a good show by him, but, we know he was coming. We didn't know when he was coming, but it's good news, I think, to start the transfer window with somebody who has had big success at Brighton and, of course, with England.
Absolutely, and we revel in speculation, but let's not speculate that this is a party, by the way, just because we've got Ian on board. It's not a party. Okay? Don't want you to get you in any trouble, Ian.
I'm afraid to say, Stevie, I wasn't invited.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right, Steve. But you know what? I don't think it makes any difference in terms of what's happening at the club, transfer-wise, whether Dan Ashworth is there or not. Whether or not there's players lined up and there's a great big queue in the car park, but they're waiting for Dan to arrive first to open the gates. I don't think that's exactly what's going on. I think we've known for many months, if not years, the way that Newcastle United have always done their transfer activity. They have a team of people who are reporting back through Steve Nixon. They go through a process. They analyse the players that they're interested in. It then goes to the board and to the manager and the rest of the coach and staff, and then they assess that person. So by the time we get to June, and that's where we're heading now, as we head into the start of June and the football close season. The targets are identified, and I think I listened to Mitch during the week pointing out that you've got probably 5 or 6 key positions that they want filled, and of those key positions, there's probably 2 or 3 players that they've got identified, and it's a case of, well, if we get that one, maybe we don't need that other one in that position, so we'll go to version 2 or we'll go to number 2 in the list, and it's like a game of 3-dimensional chess, and that's a phrase we've used many times on the show. But it's interesting that Mitch that Stewie broke the story earlier in the week that Dan Ashworth was around on Tyneside, and it looked like it was going to start. And then I believe it's in one of the nationals today that or one of the BBC commentators is now tweeting out that the appointment or the final appointment of Dan Ashworth is imminent, and more than likely will be rubber stamped and announced to the waiting public next week, which just so happens to be the beginning of June.
Keith, great news, isn't it? Ashworth's coming to town. It's a big appointment, and I think he will do wonders. And maybe it changes the course of the transfers that are going to come in as well. That's why I'm not particularly bothered. And I know Mitch isn't, having read his tweet a little bit earlier today. Just have a bit of patience, I guess, and just wait. Just sit back and enjoy it. We'll keep saying that on here, and I think we're going to get sick of saying it. But just sit back and enjoy it. This is what we wanted.
For me, I think it's more important than maybe a lot of people realise. If you stop for a few minutes and think what would have happened and what kind of criticism would the owners have got had we gone down. They'd have been accused of not understanding football. They'd have been accused of naivety, which, they were getting that before the takeover. And when you look at what they've done to get us to 11th, you know, I don't see a huge outpouring of what a great decision you made in that and Eddie Howe. And, you know, I don't see a retraction of all the statements of how naive and unqualified they were being taken back. The only person I've seen it from, believe it or not, was from what they call him on Talk Sport. Yeah, Simon Jordan. He's the only person that like sat there and said what they've done is brilliant. And it is brilliant, you know, to get a manager who should have had Manager of the Year, but in the bloke they're bringing in, and again they've chosen him. And a lot of people would have gone for the guy who was at Chelsea, they'd have gone for the ex-Man City guy. But the reality is, you've gone for Dan Ashworth. You've got to look at Brighton to judge what we're getting. They've got a stronger squad than Newcastle, and they've grown so much since they were promoted last time. They've grown into a fabulous squad, and we went and got Dan Burn out of their defence, and they still had a solid defence after he left. And that speaks testimony that you can look around and say Newcastle's had 3 or 4 centre halves over the last 7 or 8, 10 years that haven't ticked the box. And we got pretty desperate in the close season, looking at Botman and looking at Carlos and all those. And we ended up going to Newcastle lad in Dan Burn. And when you look, Burn was relatively not unheard of, but he was unmarked. He wasn't the person on the front of everybody's lips at the start. But we'll go and get him. He's been, in my opinion, exceptional. I think he's had a brilliant season. And I think he's done what Carlos was intended to do. And I think that's why they're not interested in to over Carlos now. If you look at the age of that lad, look at the fact that he has got some sendings off in him. I think Newcastle, I'll be let Villa go and get him. I think Newcastle have other targets. But in Dan Ashworth, you'll be picking people up, but he'll give you a back four where you can take Dan Burn out of it and it can still co-op, it can still operate. He's a football man, so nobody will ever question the naivety of our senior management after he joins us. And he's grown tremendous depth at Brighton, so don't underestimate how good they are. Brighton's climbed into that. They've climbed out of all the Trouble League, and they've climbed just behind that people who challenges for the league. So I'll put Brighton ahead of Everton, and I'd put them alongside of people like West Ham and Wolves now. I think that's where Brighton's climbed to, and I think they're probably edging ahead of likes of Crystal Palace. And you think, they've brought Vieira in and spent 800 million, and there's Brighton, a little Brighton. Got it. So I think what we get is a colossus of a football man. I think it'd be outstanding. And I wanted to focus on him. Everybody knew he was coming. Everybody knew it was a case of monetary to get him away from his club, and they were hanging out for the King's ransom. But when you look at it, who we're getting a lot more than a bloke would do it. And I think you'll see when he comes next week, I think you'll see Newcastle going after and bringing in their main targets. I think if we are in for Botman, we'll start rattling cages there. And I think that the people that's gone so far, but the people try to associate us with Kamara and with Carlos, and I just don't think. I think they were yesterday's targets. I think they were the targets to keep us up. And I think Dan Burn removed the need for him. 29-year-old, that kind of money, fabulous. He'd be on big wages. And again, out of the 2 centre halves that we targeted in January, I was the least keen on him. I thought he was quite rash, and I think he gets sendings off. And good player, don't get us wrong, he'll come to Villa and he'll do something, but he wasn't for me. We're trying to build somebody, and a 29-year-old, I think we're going to be getting the age down, and I think that's what this bloke will do. I think you'll see the move for the centre forward next week as well.
Gareth says Mitch suggested someone other than Dan Ashworth was in town. Any chances of who yet? Mitch, over to you.
No, was a player.
Okay.
Good
was
lad.
a player. I mean, to follow on from what Keith's just said about Dan Ashworth, he's also been announced by the ECB to be added to their performance review team. That's the standing of the kind of guy that we're getting into the club here.
It left a few people stumped, that Mitch.
Yes, obviously. Lad, honestly. You've been speaking to Elliot this week, have you? Oh my God. And also the time of the appointment ties in with something I was told a couple of months ago that the compensation dropped at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And that was always going to be the critical time for appointment. And so it makes sense. It drops to the point where it just makes sense to do the deal. And then we'll get somebody of his quality in to start laying down the groundwork, not just at first team level, but all the way through the DNA of the club. And that's what we need changing, and that's what we need evolving. And that's exactly the kind of appointment, if somebody like I've been super critical of the ECB since the fuss over how they handled Durham, for example. They need a performance review, and they need people in with proper ideas. And that's the caliber of person we've managed to get into our club, and long may it continue.
I mean, Mitch, just quickly on that, as an addendum to that, I mean, the ECB along with the MCC are on my target list for another fan-led review of the administration of cricket. I think it's long overdue, and I think the recent scandals over the racism which have gone on are just a sort of a foretaste of what sort of stuff could come out about absolutely how really bent they all are, frankly. Yeah, but there you go. It's neither here nor there.
Yeah, well, I want to put this question in that Ian sent us this week while we're texting each other, and he goes, "It's a question to mull over." He says, "It seems relatively clear that the club intend on an incremental improvement to the squad. So, given that they therefore might bring in, say, 5 players in the summer, and there's a 25-man limit on the squad, how many and who would you let go in order to help build towards competitive strength in depth?" Ian.
Question.
It's a great question. Over to you. The answers.
I see you looking at your phone there, Hasty.
I wonder why. Because I've got a few ideas on that one.
Well, I think there are players who are on the fringes, and I think that they're on the fringes. But frankly, when you look at them, they probably wouldn't get into the squad of any of the top 10 clubs in the Premier League, and therefore I think we've got to be thinking. If we're going to do well by adding to our squad, there's definitely names there that we've got to start thinking about letting go. And I think there are players who, have served us well at the level that we've been at, but frankly, won't be cutting the mustard if we want to progress and move on. And I'll be controversial. I'll start off with Lascelles. I'll just throw that one in. I think there's a couple of the other defenders who probably have been good stopgap players, but they're not at the level that we need. And I'm going to be really controversial, and I'm going to say, because I think he had a poor end to the season, although he had a reasonable game on Sunday at Burnley, and that is our friend St Maximum. I think St Maximum. I think it might be very unpopular amongst a lot of fans, but in the sort of the age group my mates are, we all kind of look at him and we think he's a player who flatters to deceive and doesn't actually produce enough, and quite often is the original source of how we lose possession to concede goals. So that's he's not enough of a team player from my perspective, and so that I just throw a couple in there just to be controversial and get the thing kicked off. And I noticed Steve smiling wryly there.
I think you're brave for saying that,
I'm gonna presume that you claim parliamentary privilege by mentioning ASM, so I'm gonna steer well clear of that one, because it is an age thing. You're right. You're absolutely right, because people of a certain age and a certain vintage are not seeing what other people are seeing. I quite agree with you there. But just picking up on the original question, my money's on what I've heard and what I know that Mitch has heard, and that is that there's at least 8 of that squad who have been told that they're surplus to requirements and are not needed anymore, and that's out the 25. So I heard this earlier, and I thought, well, who could that be? And I'll throw out the 8. There's actually 9 on my list, because there's a one that's already, I think, been announced. I've gone for Richie, Gillespie, Gale, Clark, Fernandez, Darlow, Shelby, and Hayden. And the 9th man I've got in there is already announced. He wasn't part of the 2025, but he's listed as a first teamer because he's a goalkeeper and he's young, and that's Dan Langley. And we've already heard that he's leaving the club anyway. So that's the 9 I think that are out now. If you've got a gap of 9 there, then you add some of those players that Ian's mentioned that he feels as though have served their time. Perhaps they're players that the club would listen to offers for, but if the manager still wants to, still feels they'll have a part to play, the likes of Lascelles and ASM. But that would take my 9 up to 11 if I took that in. That's nearly half the squad. And I think that gives you an idea of the potential. And I don't think out of that list of 8 or 9 that I've quoted, dispelling or dismissing the 2 that Ian said, I don't think many fans would question, Richie, Gillespie, Gale, Clark, Fernandez, Darlow, 6 of them straight away, and then Shelby's had his critics for about 2 or 3 seasons now. He had a good half season. He's faded away again towards the end. And some people say that he was already told he was surplus, and that's why he went to France. Other people said he's carrying a calf injury, and it was just a case of go away, have some rehab, have some quiet time or whatever. And I genuinely don't know what the truth is in that, and I don't need to know. I just, like everybody else, be waiting for Dan Ashworth to get to work. But if there's 9, 10, 11 players going, Dan's going to be very, very busy June and July, and I hope he's been doing his homework in the intervening 9 months since his name was announced as lined up to be our director of football.
Keith, are you writing another letter there, or are you writing some names down?
Well, I've already written one. I was due another one. I mean, like, I don't want to sound rash. I think Ian started off really brave because, for a bloke to come back after so long and mention the SM, I think, and I like the fact that you should be allowed to say what you want. This is just football banter. It's football crack. And when people get asked you about that, they need to get over themselves. But for me, I've got 14 on. So like I sound like a right hatchet man, me. But I do it a different way. I do it on who I think I can get a fee for and build a little fighting fund, and who I think's served his time and we need to strengthen. So for me, I don't mind naming them. With Langley going, I've got obviously Langley and Gillespie to go. I've got Clark to go. I've got Fernandez to go. And I've got Richie to go. And I think all them players, some of them have been brilliant servants, won't command fees. I've got them as the people who won't command fees. But the people I think will sell and get money for are Darlow, Manqueo, Lewis, Lascelles, Shelby, Wood, Gale, Murphy, Hayden. And I know Murphy might be, I think he's done a good job again, but I think he's a saleable asset. But I think in that position, like an attacking kind of winger, I think they'll strengthen this year. And I think he's going to at best get on the bench. That's why with people like that, I think he's got a good career ahead of him. I think you've got to be fair with these people, let them go if they're not going to be part of what you've got. So for me, there's 14 there, 14 out the squad that would go. That leaves 11, and I think it's them 11 you build on. And I think you bring in people out the contract, the Tuoskis of the world. If you get them, you have a pop at the Lingards and people like that. And then I think you go for people that's on loan. It's like keeper Man United. Could you get a loan deal for him? And then go and get another loan deal, a good player with a loan with an option. Because I think getting a loan with an option is a vital thing to do. You get a trial to see where they fit in with the culture. And then you go and get your signings you want, your 3 or 4 big signings, and then you've got to start bringing some younger people through. That's how I see it. But call us a dreamer. That's how I see it. And I just think it is a big clear out. And I know there's a risk. There's a risk that if you move or change too much, you can ruin things. Sometimes to keep the atmosphere in the dressing room, you've got to allow a lot of people to stay on there. I mean, Richie's a big dressing room player, but you can't keep somebody just for the dressing room. That lad will get a contract somewhere. He'll get a 2-year contract with someone. He'll do a cracking job for somebody. He's a worker. But I don't think I think he'll tell you. I don't think his time's at Newcastle anymore. I think Newcastle's moved on from that. And it was important not just that we stayed up. If we'd finished 17th, but we finished 11th, that's a massive message, because these people, I think Eddie Howe's done an absolutely sterling job. And I was sickened straight after we stayed up when people put messages out saying, "Oh, Eddie Howe was just there to get us up, and he's not good enough for us now." And I think, "Who are you? How the hell do you come out with stuff like that?" Eddie Howe's deserved next 2 seasons. If he fails miserably this year and fails next year, I'm sure in the middle of next year they'll be lined up a replacement. But for God's sake, if Eddie Howe come back to you not to say, "I'll tell you what it is, I'll keep you up, I'll get you into 11th, and I'll bring players of the ilk of Bruno Gomes," you'd have fell on your knees and done things for them. So what I'm saying is, don't start getting above our stations. There's financial fair play to think about. And with these people we're talking here, what we've got to do is we've got to sit there and say, "Yeah, Eddie, you've made a rod for your own back." Because finishing 11th has put hellish pressure on Eddie Howe now, because he's got to finish better than that this year. These people have got, they're just winning everything they do. And that team will sit down with him, they'll pressure him. They'll pressure him to take big players. I've already heard they have, that they're pressuring him to take some big players. And Howe's taken the view that he doesn't want to bring people in his bad eggs for the dressing room. And I think, the likes of Pogba and people like that can just ruin the dressing room. So for me, if you've got 11 backbone, and really you're talking about the level of people you put on the pitch every week, and you put them in, and then you start feeding these other people in. I mean, when you've got 3 people like Nketiah, Lingard, and Tuwoski, they're 3 tremendous players to come out of contract. But that's just looking at England. Who's coming out of contract in Spain and Italy? So when you look at them, you look at Man United getting Cavalier last year. He's a great signing. And that's the kind of people we've got out of the squad. So when they come off the bench, they're coming off the bench and you think he could do something. And I think any Newcastle fan that's deadly honest, I think Chris Wood did the job he was brought in to do. And I think he did a good job. At Leeds, he was outstanding. The amount of heads he won. But I think if Wood was coming off the bench and we're 1-0 down in FA Cup semi-final, I don't think he'd change it. Or you think he might, if he got the cross that St. Maxim gave him that day, will he kill it? So for me, I might be being harsh, but I'd rather bring in a striker and a cracking young'un, who's not ready to go straight in with the likes of Wilson. That's the kind of people I want. So whoever gets a game, you think this lad can score, this lad's lethal, this lad's going to prove it. You know what I mean? And I'm not. I've heard that Nketiah stayed at Arsenal, but people like him have a different, different skill set to some of the people that's going to get the reserve shirts for us this year.
Mitch, your take on Ian's wonderful question for tonight?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's funny that Steve, Stu and I have been batting a few things around this week, and 8 was the number that came into conversation from a couple of different places, and often not wrong, and so, I mean, the 8 I have in line: Clark Hayden, Richie, Darlow, Woodman, Gale, Fernandez and Shelby, and then leave the backbone of the squad as is, and then we can add quality to that. And I think that really is a nice incremental growth.
I'm 15 now because you've just given us Woodman. I'm 15.
Well, you know, I think this is why it's difficult to nail down on what's our transfer budget and how we're going to use it and what we're going to do with it. And that's why I think there's no set rules. I think it's fluid. I think it'll depend on who we get and what level of target we've got. And like Steve said before, it's like 3D chess. It's one of these little slide block puzzles where the picture suddenly appears as you drop stuff into the right place. And I think that's exactly what it'll do. And anybody who says they know it's X, Y, or Z, I don't think they've got a clue. I don't think anybody knows what it is.
Shit.
And that's deliberate. It's like through the week when it's like
16.
through the.
I'm 16. I forgot about Hendrick. What the hell? I'm 16. 16
Matt as well, then Matt Target, because he's not going to come back. So there's 17.
I've got 16. Sorry, 16.
I forgot about Hendrick as well. Hendrick as well.
Actually, listen to go for me.
It's like when I was on through the week with the loaded lads, and the Kieran Maguire talking about us being subject to this idea that you get in Thai markets where you've got a locals price, a tourist price, and an American tourist price, and we're the American tourist at the minute. And I think that's the challenge we have is not having my pants taken down. And I think it proved in January that that's not going to happen.
I mean, just throw in a name here, by the way, because 8 months, this person would have been top of the list. Joe Linton. 8 months ago, Joe Linton would have been top of the list.
We've always said all the way, when you're off him, we're all saying, well, he'll definitely make a player. We knew all along. We were never, ever in any doubt. You've been away too long, mate.
Well, I've got a funny recollection. It was actually me this year. I thought there was a player in there somewhere.
Mitch has been taking the credit for it, Ian.
All the shows are still up. You'll see that it was Ian Mearns, 100%. I want to point out that Ian was star of the Burnley programme at the weekend, and there's his shirt, 50 Falls Dawns, which is the Burnley programme actually stated the weekend. Ian's 50th birthday present from his mates. Sadly, it's 15 years old. So, I mean, good little article, double page spread, opposition view from Ian. I do want to move on now to another topic before we come to the day I met. And it's the football pitch invasions, which we covered a little bit last week. I did search the FA's website, and they had put this up last week. We're very concerned about the rise in social behaviour from fans as we reach the end of the season. Football stadiums should always be safe and enjoyable space for everyone, and these incidents are completely unacceptable and have no place in our game. It's illegal to enter the pitch area in any stadium, and these actions are putting players, fans, and people who run the game at great risk. They simply cannot continue, and we can confirm that we are investigating all of the incidents. Clubs play a vital role in addressing the issue, and they need to prevent pitch invasions from occurring, as well as taking their own action against those that break the rules and the law. The FA will be seeking to do all that it can to work with clubs, as well as addressing the issues from a disciplinary perspective. We are also reviewing our regulations to help stamp this behaviour out and ensure the safety of everyone inside the stadium. Ian, it's unsavoury what we've seen, and I've got to be honest, it really surprised me that it happened at Man City, of all places. But it appears that the incident at Nottingham Forest, basically got into some fans' minds, and they thought, we'll have a bit of that. And it was just like a flashback to the 70s and 80s. It was awful, and Billy Sharp getting knocked unconscious, Patrick Vieira having a swipe like Brian Clough did. Players getting hit from behind in the Aston Villa Man City game. I mean, it was awful, Ian. It was an awful flashback. And then you had Newcastle United, who carried off their end of season walk around the pitch in exemplary fashion. Burnley, who were relegated. I was down there as you, and it was ultimately great to see the Burnley fans taking it in good sport. I mean, I spoke to many of them outside the ground after the game, and there was a lot of pleasantries exchanged between people. But we can't go back to this, and I think the big question I want to ask you lads is how do we stop it? What should the punishment be? Because as always, the crack down the pub, or the crack in the gym, or the crack on the bus, or the crack in work this week, everyone has got their own suggestion. A lot of people saying points deductions, other people saying you should ban every single fan who's on the pitch, and none of this really is right. I don't think you can't ban every supporter, and you'd end up with none. My suggestion was quite a simple one, and a few of the lads came up with this as well, and that's really just, if you've got a pitch invasion at your ground, the first one, then your next game, you play behind closed doors. And if it becomes a regular effect at the club, then, you have another one. And there should be like a 3 strikes and you're out. And if the fans from the other club invade, they get an away day ban for a game. I think that hitting the fans rather than hitting the club makes more sense to me. What do you think?
Well, I must admit, I mean, the thing from my perspective, Steve, is the points deduction thing seems to me like the ultimate deterrent effect. Because, I mean, for instance, if Everton, for instance, had been threatened with a 5 points deduction, where would they have been? Where would Man City have been in terms of winning the title? If there was a threat of a 3-point or a 5-point deduction, because that so much rested on the result of those games. And if fans knew before the start and kick-off of the game that at the end of the game or any time during the game there's an encroachment onto the pitch, that their club was going to get a deduction, well, I mean, the rest of the fans in the ground would never have to give those individuals one, so there'd be a self-policing thing. But I also think the threat of the points deduction, would be, I mean, it's no good doing it after the fact. But if people know before they go into the stadium that there's a threat of a points deduction, well, then I think that would be helpful in terms of self-policing. And I think the thing is, since the Safety at Football Grounds Act was implemented, and we had all-seater stadia in the Premier League, one of the things which has been helpful in that is because it's quite easy in the vast majority of cases for the club to identify who sits in what seat, because people know, I mean, okay, at Newcastle, there's been tickets been going on sale for individual games, 78,000 tickets. But for the vast majority of fans, they can identify particular seats, who sits where, and narrow down suspects for things like stuff being thrown onto pitches and other. But I think if there is a threat of a deduction before the kick-off, that might be the deterrent effect that we need. But as you quite rightly say, you'd be punishing clubs for the misdemeanors of fans, but the clubs have a responsibility as well. Adequate stewarding, paying for adequate policing as well. I mean, it's not like Premier League clubs in particular can't afford that. It's a different matter in the Championship where they're up to their neck in debt. But I think that deterrent effect would be important, Steve. But it's no good afterwards.
No, Steve, your thoughts on this?
They're up to their neck in debt in the Premier League as well, by the way.
Oh,
But you know what? Well, first of all, let's look at that FA statement. That FA statement is the equivalent of the caretaker at a school before the kids have gone in, telling them to keep off the grass and everybody ignoring him because he's got no authority. Because the FA have no authority in the game anymore. The ultimate deterrent, I agree with what you're saying, Ian. What I'd also say is that I think there's a few things to worry about on this. One is that the government is culpable. The government's talking about having someone coming in looking at the governance of the game and all that type of thing. We've seen discussions about safe standing, and we've seen areas where they're now trialing it in certain clubs. We've got this other campaign that's on the go to say that we should be allowed to drink alcohol on the stands. How convenient is it for the British government at the moment to suddenly have, when you've got someone like Nadine Dorries, who's thick as two short ones, standing there saying, you know what, you cannot trust football fans anymore. Just like we cannot trust Channel 4 to show decent programmes anymore. We can't trust football fans to police themselves, so we're going to have to do something about it because they keep invading the pitch. We can't trust them to drink alcohol, so we're not going to allow them to drink alcohol in the grounds anymore. We're going to stop them from drinking it and stamp on this idea of having it on while they're sitting watching the game like they do in Germany. All of those things are the little thin end of the wedges that conspiracy theorists like myself, when it comes to football, would sit and go, this is very, very convenient for the government at the moment for it to be happening. But in terms of the responsibility, it lies with the home club to make sure that people kind of get on the football pitch because it's against the law, and they have a responsibility. The clubs have a responsibility to keep people off the pitch. It's no good just opening the doors and saying, well, get on the pitch, but by the way, if you do go on the pitch, there's a risk that you might be closed down. They'll not close them down. We know that. They'll not do that. The people who are responsible tend to be in the local authorities for the safety certificates that are given out. But at the end of the day, the clubs have refused to pay for policing in grounds. And that's why we've got students in high-vis jackets earning less than the minimum wage in many, many instances. And we've got companies that have set themselves up to say that they can police football grounds on behalf of football clubs. And yet we've seen the state they made of Wembley at one of the most massive international events that this country's held since 1996. And look at the mess that the stewarding did there. And that was the FA, by the way. The very people who have just put out a statement. How are you, lads? Give your heads a shake. So there's a lot of people need to be involved in the discussion. The local authorities who give the safety certificates, the clubs themselves who need to take responsibility for the safety of not only their own players and the officials who are refereeing and running the lines on the games, but also the players and officials from their visiting club should be treated with respect. Everton Football Club should no longer be having the away team having to cross the football pitch to get to the changing rooms as they're doing, still under some ridiculous COVID rule that justifies the fact that it's cost them £170 million. That's how much they've lost because of COVID. You know, how we, lads, give your heads a shake. This is where we're being conned. This is where we're being taken for a ride. And we're going to continue to be taken for a ride. We're taken for a ride on Everton and their finances. We've been taken for a ride by the government, who are offering all sorts in one hand, but are probably going to give absolutely nothing when push comes to shove. And we'll sit and wait for this so-called leader and who's going to be responsible for the governance of football, and we'll see how long that takes as well. It's an absolute farce, and the FA as well. I'm sticking the knife into them all today. I've always had a gripe about the FA. The FA are just a load of grey men in suits, and they have absolutely no authority in football anymore because they took the Queen's shilling from the Premier League 30 odd years ago.
Well said. That was a half of a rant there from Steve Hasty. He annihilated loads of people, but it was in a polite, calm, quiet way. What's that? Keith, your thoughts on pitch invasions, mate? I mean, we've seen them over the years at Newcastle. The one at Man City prompted us to show that photograph that I had in a collection of newspapers of the ball getting snapped at St James's Park, which for a period of time in the late 80s, early 90s was a regular thing. But it was just shameful. They've just won the Premier League, for God's sake.
And to tackle Aston Villa's goalie on the way off, I mean, what kind of clown was that? But for me, if you've got successful clubs like Newcastle and you remove the season ticket, that would have a massive impact, because it's easy to identify. But when you on the same hand, if you did that at Sunderland, you'd find there'd be nanas and grannies and aunties and kids running on the pitch, thinking, "Shit, we can get rid of our season ticket just by standing on that grass." So it wouldn't work on every ground. But I think if you did it at Newcastle, and I think if you did it, the grounds where it's going to happen, like even the clubs who's stayed up, like Everton, like they would think twice if they were going to lose a season ticket.
Keith, by the way, on Everton, and Steve mentioned Everton to the 170 million quid for COVID. Is there any truth in the rumour that Delia Smith was the accountant that did that?
Didn't need Delia to cook those books.
So I think prevention for that. But there's a few people coming here who've been reading, and it come to me as soon as you said it. I thought, how would I do it? I mean, I might be biased. My two dogs are police dogs, and they would clean up an area in seconds. If you put an Alsatian or put one of their Malinois on an extended leash, they would place 50 yards. It tells. I know there's a cost privitation with people saying, football clubs have generally stopped paying. They don't want to pay the rates to place the grounds. So they give it to some clowns. And if you want to judge, I'm not being harsh on it yet. If you want to judge what a clown is, the bloke ties himself to the goalpost at Everton, and they decide they're going to cut them loose. So a fan comes out the ground with a flick knife and hands it to the steward. And the steward has a bit mess on with the flick knife, then hands the flick knife back to the fan. and you telling me that it's wise to reduce the policing costs? I mean, these are multi-billion pound concerns we talk about. These football clubs, they're not dealing millions and tens and hundreds of millions. These are multi-billion. Look at how much Chelsea's just gone for now. And you telling me that the prices they charge, it's not unknown to sit in the ground and pay upwards 60, 100. Some of these places 200. Some of them playing £300, £400 a week to get someone to sit in the better seats. But a cheap season ticket has got to allow itself so much money to afford adequate placing. And if you're gonna get placed by the kind of people who were at Everton the night that lad tied to the post, the mentality, they just, how savvy was that guy when he gets handed a flick knife? He should have gone to his radio and said, "I need to get a placement over here. I've got someone in the ground with a flick knife." Because what kind of person takes a flick knife to a football game? And if you get caught going in, what's the charges of getting caught with a flick knife on you? So if you're going to use people in high-vis jackets, you've seen lots of games where they got overrun at doors, turnstiles. A lot of the violence is caused when you've got inadequate people. At the end of the day, they're paying a minimum wage. So why, if people are slogging it out and chucking bottles, why should somebody on minimum wage jump in and take a bottle on the head to stop it? But if you give it to the police, they're paid to do it, they know how to do it. And if you say to the police, look, it's the last game of the season, we're playing today, there's every likelihood there's going to be a pitch invasion, and we want a police dog every 30 metres. And to me, last 5 minutes, the police dogs come out and they go on the little void between between the spectators and the pitch, and they walk that area. And, there's no distraction. Them dogs will walk up and down, and there's nobody going to sit there and just say, well, I'm going to charge through and take the risk. And if they do, a police dog will sharp go and bring them to the ground. And
it's obvious, Keith, it's obvious, Keith, you believe in rough justice, don't you?
He's barks worse than he's biting.
When you see people like Frank Lampard, I think the problem's within the club as well. Frank Lampard laughing. I saw the video today where someone said, "Oh, Patrick Vieira has just kicked somebody." So Lampard burst out laughing. It's not funny that Patrick Vieira then had to go through the risk of getting charged for that. You know what I mean? And the other man's laughing, and the manager said after the event, these are the words he used. He said, if I'd thought about it, Patrick and the Everton team could have come to us. The Palace team could have come to us because Lampard said he had 80 metres to get across to the temporary turnstiles. They had temporary accommodation, temporary dressing rooms. And what he's saying to us, if I'd thought about it, well, hold on a minute, Frank. You play tomorrow. If you get a win against Crystal Palace, you stoked. Do you think the fans might come on? Well, they might do. But you've thought about that a lot, son. And have you ever thought that Crystal Palace are stuck on the other side of that and they've got to get to there? And what's your fans going to do? So what happens predictable? I think, fail to plan to fail. That's what I think. And I think if you do it and say, right, you lose your season ticket and there'll be police dogs there, and we take no responsibility for anybody that enters an area which is a restricted area for the safety of the players, and police dogs will be used to prevent people coming on. So if you get bit, it's on your ass.
Mitch, what's your take on this? I mean, God, we were from the generation of fences, and we saw the horrendous situation develop at Heysel and Hillsborough, and we lived through the Bradford fire as well, which was a lot of these things came to change football stadiums forever. Surely we're not going to see a return to fences. Some grounds in Europe, of course, use a moat system where they dig a moat around the ground in front of the supporters, so that there's no fences, but they can't breach the pitch. Is it going to have to come to something like that?
We really can't go back to those days. For me, recent talk about FFP and COVID losses and things like that tells me that the easiest way to hurt a club is still financial. So simple. People on the pitch, 5 games behind closed doors. You lose a quarter of your gate revenue for the season. Boom. See how much that would screw people's FFP up. See how much that would screw people's income up. And that would stop it. That would make the clubs take action to stop it. Because it's down to the home clubs to do that. And there's not enough of them doing enough, as Steve quite rightly says, to actually stop the situation arising. It's down to the home club to do that. As a fan base, I think we are fantastic at generally policing ourselves. And I think we do that quite well, and I don't think we get any credit for it at all. The behaviour of certain fan bases has been quite startling to me, and it stands out that some patently can't be trusted. And the only way to hurt those clubs is financial. To take a quarter of their home gate receipts off them, stop the fans coming in, see how quickly the clubs then will act to do something about it, because it'll only take one to get sanctioned, and that's it. Everybody will start acting because they'll see somebody somewhere means business. But as again Steve rightly says, the people in charge of football at very different levels seem to be paper tigers when it comes to the real problems.
Yeah,
I'll
give an example, Mitch. I'll give an example. I was talking to somebody on Wednesday who was in Seville last week for the Europa Cup final, and they said that every single person in the Rangers end and in the it was Eintracht Frankfurt they were playing, was searched. You weren't allowed to take in, and bearing in mind it was over 30 odd degrees in that ground. You weren't allowed to take a bottle of water with you in case you used the bottle as a missile. You weren't allowed to carry, and she was stopped and had a spare battery for her phone because she wanted to carry, taking loads of photos and thought her phone was going out. And she had a spare battery, like an adapter thing to put on. That was taken off her in case she threw it on the pitch. Coins were removed from your pockets in case you threw them on. You literally went in. I was going to use a different phrase there, but I thought, oh, that's not the phrase to use. You literally went in completely naked in terms of anything that could be used as a weapon, anything that potentially could have been thrown on the pitch. You know, it got to the point where they were nearly getting people to remove their shoes. You know, honestly, it was ridiculous.
Did they tell them not to sing as well? Did they tell them that they couldn't sing?
It probably came to that. But I haven't mind that UEFA.
So the quietest game I've seen.
It goes to show that if they want to do it, if the authorities want to, they can do it. Now, in UEFA's case, it was done because they had a showcase final and they thought there was a threat, so they wanted to make sure. But it was fully right on, full-fledged, zero tolerance that they went for on that particular game. Whether that was right or not, it's a different matter. I mean, both sets of fans were exemplary. I heard there was only one arrest. I know there was trouble at various times during the preceding day, but there was one arrest apparently at that game, and that was an Eintracht Frankfurt fan who was drunk, apparently. I imagine they found somebody drunk at a football match in Spain. It's unbelievable. But it shows it can be done if you wanted, but weak-willed, weak-livered clubs in this country who won't spend the money and won't safeguard their fans, other players of other clubs, their own players. You imagine if we'd had a pitch invasion 6 months ago, there would have been some of our players wouldn't be at the club anymore because they would have been getting a right kicking for some of the performances being putting in. And Steve Bruce wouldn't have certainly got off the pitch in one piece either, would he?
Steve, you're on mute.
Steve,
you know why? Because the washing machine is on. And it was going on the final spin. Unbelievable. Dawn's not even here. I can't even blame her. Okay,
Steve, honestly, I hope it's not sports washing that you're doing, mine. But
hey, I like it. Get no before he goes. All right, it's time for the day I met. Okay, the day I met, where I ask you to send in photographs of you meeting players, managers, or ex-players, ex-managers, and a few to get through. Kieran Patterson, thank you for this. He says, I was talking to Steve Hasty outside the food bank before the Arsenal game, and I bumped into these two.
Unbelievable. God, they get everywhere, them two, don't they?
I'm surprised you didn't get a photograph of you there, but thank you for that, Kieran. Thanks for sending that in, mate. This one came today from Mick Gilchrist. He says, the day I met Henry, Jose Perez visiting one of my neighbours. He ran a butcher's, visited by a lot of players with my eldest. Thank you for that, Mick. And Tony Cruz Walker, wow, he took over the whole segment today. I used to play football against Tony. He's there with Supermac and Joe Allen to start with. Then we've got this one. With Nobby Solano having a pint up in Gosford, I think. Looks like Ashley's old place. And then one with Lee Clark.
Hey.
This one was sold by Alfie, Big Hag, and Olivia Bernard.
Yeah.
And then a couple more from Tony. Another one with Joe Allen. One with Keith Gillespie. And one with Mirandina, looking a bit younger there, mate.
Oh, brilliant.
And one with KK and Monkey Seed. Fantastic. Thank you for those, Tony. Some great memories, some great players. And I'm going to upset everybody by playing that music again. Sean Longstaff, new contract, Ian. Happy?
Look, I think he's actually started to recover after being bruised. So I think there's a potential for him to be a reasonable player again. But I mean, we used to talk about players being pardewed. Well, I think Longstaff was bruised.
Yeah. I mean, he came back from a bad injury. We've discussed it a few times on here, but there was a lot of talk a few weeks ago about Longstaff potentially turning down the contract. But I thought, Ian, the last couple of games he played really well. He was back to his best, and I think he's the kind of player that Eddie Howe will enjoy and relish developing. And I think, as long as he steers clear of injury, I think we might see, more of what we were expecting, which was, a young Carrick kind of figure in the centre of the park for Newcastle.
Aye.
Yeah, Steve, you happy to see Sean sign?
I'm absolutely delighted, because as most people who watch the show know, that I've been a big supporter of Sean Longstaff, even when people have been having a pop. I've always said I thought was a player there. I'm delighted he's getting a new contract. I think that we'll see a new, refreshed and enlightened Sean Longstaff next season. I think it looks like Bruno's the sort of player that he can bounce off and can play off. I think he was kind of hamstrung when he had Shelby alongside him. I think that he didn't, and I agree entirely with what Ian's saying. He was bruised. I don't think he really had any direction given to him from the coaching staff at the club at that particular time. But I think what we're benefiting from now, as you say, Steve, is a coach in Eddie Howe and Jason Tyndall and the rest of the coaching team who can see the potential and can see a young player there who's had a bad injury, has come back, and he's working his socks off and desperately wants to be at the football club. And that's important when you've got players who desperately want to be at the football club, desperately want to be part of it. And he's a Geordie as well. And I know that a lot of people will go, just because he's a Geordie doesn't mean you're guaranteed anything. Absolutely right. It doesn't guarantee anything at all. But what we've got someone who will fight for that shirt, and whether he's in the squad or he's in the first team or he's a member of the squad trying to get into the first team, he'll fight his way to make sure that he gets the opportunity. And it's now up to Sean to take that opportunity, by the way. It's not for us to advocate and insist that he's part of the first 11. And Sean will know, because he's professional, that it's his job now, having got that 3-year contract, to A, justify the money, but B, justify the 3 years. And if after 18 months, and that's the gamble that a professional footballer of his age has taken, if after those 18 months things haven't matured and worked out the way that it should for him, then he'll be peddled. He'll be gone. And the risk he's taking is that if he can't succeed at a successful Newcastle United, where will he succeed? So, hey, good luck to him. Absolutely delighted. And that's why he's not one of the now 17 players that Keith's got on his list.
Keith, what's your take on Longstaff?
He was never going to be on my 17, and I'm absolutely delighted. And I'm not looking at some people put on, say, signing Longstaff makes a statement. I don't know where you come from, because Sean Longstaff has a value, and if he didn't sign, we lost that value. So, regardless of what you think, we've proved ourselves that 13, 14 million can buy you a duck egg, and Sean Longstaff certainly would go for 10 plus million. It's amazing, like, we all fully bought into what Rafa was about, and he was a big advocate, and if he'd stayed there, he was going to try and buy him. And so you've got to judge the people who work with him. There's something which I've got no shame in sharing it, and this comes from impeccable source. Sean Longstaff and Matty Longstaff, when they were at Newcastle, during the time when I was doing help with the takeover, were ignored on a daily basis by Steve Bruce. So when they went into the training ground, they weren't he just wouldn't look at them. He wouldn't acknowledge them. He wouldn't even shake. He wouldn't speak them. He wouldn't say good morning. He wouldn't answer them. He just blacked them, because he wanted them just to sign contracts on his terms. And both them lads, the dad was obviously involved with it. Both them lads were in contract dispute, I think was the best way to put it. And Sean Longstaff came to work, and I reported it to the people I was working with at the time at the club and said, we're desperate for a win. And you've got a lad there, Sean Longstaff, that a lot of the players, that's Stuart Penman, a lot of the players were saying he was one of the best kids in training. He's working week in, week out. He should have been played in the team, but he wouldn't, on any count, Bruce wouldn't play him. I went to someone senior at the club, as high as you get, and I said, what's Bruce thinking about? Why would he put his ego or his pettiness ahead of Newcastle's survival? Why didn't he just give Sean Longstaff a chance? Because they'll have run through hoops for you.
Can I be something controversial, Keith? Just honestly on that, like Steve Bruce liked players who had particular agents, shall we say?
Right. Did he have the wrong agent, mate?
I believe so.
Yeah. Well, he wouldn't. Well, the saying that his dad did a lot of the negotiations for them, but I had it from not from one source. I had from a few that Sean Longstaff. This came out of him just didn't know what to do. And then he's still a young'un. So I've run businesses and had hundreds and hundreds of staff, and I'd be embarrassed. I wouldn't be looking in the mirror if I had a pettiness which wouldn't allow somebody to get respect when they went to work. At least somebody goes. Somebody might get the minimum wage, but I think the least they do in the work is respect them and treat them like a human being. Treat them like you want them to treat you. And if not, let them go or sell them. But Steve Bruce didn't do that. He wouldn't speak to Matt. He wouldn't speak to Sean. And then I go back to certain games. I think, I might have it wrong, but my little gut feeling is the day when I've said, I've always thought it's Stuart, but the day I said, we've got it, we've nailed it, was Leeds away. That was one game we were not expected to win. At that time, Leeds was stronger than us. You know what I mean? And Leeds, were more beat than us. We were doing nothing. And that day, Leeds away, when we won that game, that was a massive turning point. I know Man United at home, we started playing football again. But Leeds away, and Sean Longstaff won through walls that day. And he did against Arsenal the other night, that chip he put through the Will. If Wilson finished that off, I tell you what, if that had been Messi that said, have you seen the sublime pass he just put through there? It was a wonderful pass. And the kid's got a good footballing brain. The kid's got a good shot in him. He's capable of doing so much more. And you put him next to players like Bruno and like the kind of people we're going to bring in, and you'll get a footballer out of him. And it's not just because he's a local lad, it's because he's a good footballer. And if it doesn't work out, then you've given dignity, you've given him a contract, you've given him a chance, and you've made up for the way your ex-manager treated him because it was abysmal. And if he doesn't make it, we'll get a fee for him. If in a year's time, he's on the strings, you'll get 10, 12 million for him. And that's why I don't understand people saying we shouldn't re-sign. To me, I think Sean Longstaff's got mountains of potential. I really do.
Mitch, your thoughts on Longstaff signing that new contract?
I agree with Steve. When he's in the same team as Shelby, he looks stifled. He looks held back. And, the two last performances of the season, Arsenal and Burnley, we've got that Sean Longstaff back, and long may it continue for me.
Exactly.
He's got the ability to do it. He always did have. I think people don't probably realise how serious the injury you picked up was, and I think it's taken time for him to recover. Plus, we've had a lot of internal turmoil at the club as he was recovering from that injury. And so I think we're seeing the benefit of it now. You're adding somebody back into the squad who's well liked, who's settled, who will help other players settle. Ticking the homegrown box in terms of squad management. We've got all these things to think about, and we've been terrible at these things over the last 14 years. Really bad, and so I think I welcome the signing very much. I think it's good for him, good for the club, and he's got the potential to develop still, and how he probably buys into Howe's methodology and as well liked by the training team as well. So, he's earned it. He's earned the contract.
Definitely.
By sticking it out. And certainly we're seeing the best of it at the end of the season. And Keith's quite right. His performance down at Leeds was fantastic.
Yeah.
And he was key to that result. We had to match their energy and boss their midfield a little. Yeah, and that's exactly what we did. And so, he's earned that contract for me.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, no, he most certainly has. And I'm delighted to see Sean Longstaff stay at Newcastle United as well. As always, we have to give a shout out to our sponsors. And Gareth is in the chat tonight. Big shout out to Gareth and Nathan at Spider Miner. Worldwide coverage, of course, from the lads. the only cryptocurrency miner that can mine 5 different cryptocurrencies at the same time, whilst using virtually no energy, and it's VPN protected. Buy yours now at www.miner.spidervpn.org. Thanks to Scott at skipsandbins.com, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to L&G Family Funeral Directors, 01913897245, and a Gardener Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Walls and Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. And thanks to Click Eye. Meet the new Game Over screen, drop into a ClearRun device near you, available on Apple Store, Google Play, and clearrun.game. Thanks to Neil Jackson from Media Arts for all the help with the video side of things. If you want to subscribe, we are still doing 7 shows a week throughout the summer. Hit the Newcastle Legends logo on the right-hand side of the screen and you can subscribe for free. Hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to share to your social media, and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans or to post a comment below. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and the rest, usually 24 hours after the program has finished. If you want to become a member, you can simply join on YouTube. That does help us a little bit. Or you can go to the website, NUFCmatters.com, or put your smartphone over the QR code and it takes you to the membership pack section. What do you get for your money? If you go through the website, you get a cup, a pen, a scarf, a membership card, and entry into the prize draw. And big news coming from John this week is that potentially we may have a season ticket up for grabs for the members. Now, that is something rather special. John is working on that. We will know in the next couple of weeks. But what he has said is if he doesn't get the season ticket, there will be a cash prize equivalent for the members draw. You have 3 weeks to become a member then, to be considered for that grand prize of a season ticket or the cash equivalent. You will know exactly what it is, of course, before we run the prize draw. But get yourself involved. £25 for a season ticket is the potential offer there. So maybe it's worth joining today. Don't forget, as a subscriber, you do get a free car sticker. You need to email John at NUFCmatters.com to get that. And we still support the food bank throughout the summer. Very important because there, of course, are no games at the moment. So go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk to make a virtual donation to the match day bucket. The T-shirt, the Ant and Deck T-shirt, is still up for grabs on my Twitter. Now, this has been quite remarkable this week because it's a T-shirt, of course, which John prepares as he does every week from QTech. And, I've watched the bidding go up slowly and surely. And this week has been quite a remarkable amount raised. George Hayes, as most of you know, Hoostun Mag on Twitter, who has donated so much money via this particular method over the last few months and throughout lockdown as well, has donated and paid to the charity £450 for the Ant and Deck T-shirt today. That money has been directly paid into the GoFundMe page, which I am now going to share in the chat. The GoFundMe page, of course, is for the Cassidys. It's a fundraiser for the Cassidys, and they're holding a fundraising afternoon at Newcastle Labour Club from 12 o'clock on Sunday. It was Sunday the 22nd of May, but they were raising money, obviously, for this tragic story of Victoria Cassidy, who has been diagnosed with a life-ending disease. The money that George has donated has taken the total now to £8,623. But as George always does, he has insisted that the £450 goes in, which he's paid, but he says the second highest bidder can have the T-shirt. And at the moment, that is Vince Smith with a bid of £380. So you've got about half an hour, guys, to outbid Vince. If not, Vince will win the T-shirt, as that is George's request that the second place person wins it. And that means we will have raised just short of £850 for the Ant and Deck T-shirt, which is brilliant. Keith is going to get that signed by Ant and Deck, which will take a couple of weeks. And then that T-shirt will wing its way to Vince if he is the winning bidder. But still half an hour for everybody to join in on that. So thanks so much for
On that, Steve, if Vince wins it, he wants writing to Vince on it. Let us know, and then when I give it to Anthony Deck, I'll get it.
Fantastic.
Get it signed with what he wants.
Yeah, that's great. Don't forget as well, we've got our end of season do at Shearer's Bar, and there'll be a few of the guys from NUFC Matters there as well. Mick Lowes and Andy Griffin, Friday the 24th of June. Doors are at 7 o'clock. Tickets are £12, and they are available from NUFCmatters.com. And the Shearer Ball is still up for grabs. We need to sell those tickets for us to do the draw. So it's $2.99 the ticket. Get yourself in, take a lucky punt. The ball is one of 260, signed by Alan Shearer at the 260 dinner. Well worth a punt. Go to NUFCmatters.com to join that. And as I announced last week, the Crazed Gangster Behind Bars documentary will be shown at the Irish Centre on the 11th of June. All proceeds from the documentary screening are going to St Bede's Palliative Care Unit at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, who, of course, looked after my mother in her final days. Just want to thank Richard, the director, for coming up with this idea. It's a lovely gesture, and if everybody from the NUFC Matters community could support it, even if you can't make it, it would be nice to raise a nice little bit extra money for them. So go to NUFCmatters.com. You can buy tickets for that. We do have another announcement. We've got a fairly well-known face coming to Gateshead, not Newcastle, but I'll hand it over to him. I'm not going to argue with him.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tyson Fury here. My UK Tour Part 1 tickets are now on sale. Go to Go Star Promotions to get your tickets now. Leg 2 will start in September. Cannot wait. Get up! What a nights we're going to have all over the UK. It's going to be a ball. Do not miss it. Big time party with a big GK. All the best, guys. See you there.
Great stuff. Tyson Fury, it's a hat trick for me. It'll be the third time I'll have brought him to the Northeast, once in Newcastle. This will be second time in Gateshead. He's going to be on at the Fed, 7th of July. There'll be a couple more videos coming from Tyson over the next few weeks. Tickets are going really well for that. And as you say, Gold Star is the place to get those tickets, but I will be mentioning that over the next few weeks. And just had a message from John from Q-Tech. He has bought 20 tickets for the film screening for the Irish Centre, and he's going to give those tickets away to the first 20 people who email him. So anybody would like to go to the film screening, the documentary film screening at the Irish Centre on the 11th of June, if you email John at NUFCmatters.com, he will do that. But that's 20 tickets for you lucky people in the chat, and John will give you those tickets for free. Thanks very much for John. So there's £100 for St Bede's Palliative Care already, which is absolutely fantastic. Okay, that is the end of the public service announcement, which I'm afraid seems to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Before you go, Ian, let's have a quick chat about what you would see next season as success. We finished 11th, mate. We were hovering over that relegation trapdoor, and then Eddie Howe comes in, and we spend a few quid, and we make some massive progress, and we stay up. We finish 11th. Does that make Eddie Howe's job a bit more difficult next season? Would people see finishing 10th, for example, as failure? What would you say would be success?
Well, if you look at the form since we played Man United, we would be top 4. And I know it's going to be harder to keep that form going across the whole of the season. But I think from my perspective, picking up points against the top 6, because we haven't picked up many points against the top 6 this season, and also trying to take forward that momentum. And I think that there's a real prospect that we could be 6, 7, 8 next season, and I think from an incremental perspective, I would see that as real progress. But if we could actually qualify for even one of the lesser European competitions, I think that would be massive. Just to show that there we are, putting my noses above the parapet, and we're getting in there and mix it. But in order to do that, we've got to get better results against those so-called big 6 clubs, and I think that would be wonderful. And I think there's a real prospect, by the way, that our home form. Look at the way in which we played Arsenal. We terrified them, I thought, at St James's, and we could keep that going and actually start picking up results against the Tottenhams, the Arsenals, even the Man Cities and Liverpools. As wonderful as they are at football, let's aim high And the thing is, the thing is with Eddie Howe and the club, football's an awful game because you never know what injuries you're going to get. You never what success or disappointment you're going to get in the transfer market. It's a big step to get into that sort of top 8, 7, 8, 6. So just move on up. Here we are 11th this season. Unbelievable contrast to where we were. We were already relegated before Christmas in most people's eyes. I think in fact we were already relegated. At that stage.
Yeah, Steve, what would you see? What would you see as success next season?
Well, Eddie Howe really, really has set the bar, hasn't he? And he's putting himself under pressure. For me, it's got to be a top 7. It's got to get into the top 7. I think all the talk of a 5-year plan that people discuss, and it'll take 5 years to do this and 5 years to do that. I think where we're at now is I think Eddie Howe's got two seasons in him to show incremental improvement. And as Ian rightly says, we've finished 11th, and there's no reason why we can't move forward. But I think that the powers that be, and I'm not just talking at board level, but probably above that, and new board members have come in. I think they'll be ambitious. I think they'll be expecting success. It's how in football you measure that success. Do you measure it in just gradually creeping up the league? Do you measure it in winning a cup? Do you measure it in getting to cup finals? Because let's face it, if we've got all of those players, and we, like I said, we heard 8. If we've got all those players who are leaving the club, those players have got to be replaced. So that's investment by the owners, investment by the consortium. And with that comes the added pressure of saying to Eddie Howe, you're now going to have to rip up the squad, blend a new squad, and improve at the same time. And you've got a couple of seasons because that's all you have. And the only certainty is you do have in football is that managers get the sack. And that's what Eddie Howe's now, that's the pressure that he's under. From my point of view, I think there's no reason why we can't go for a top 7 place, if not higher. And I'm saying top 7 because it's keeping us just out the top 4, and there's the potential there for Europe. And Newcastle United should certainly be pushing for a European place next season. That should be the minimum that they're aiming for. And if the squad can carry on the form and the manager can keep going with the performances and the form with his rebuilt squad next season, then there's no reason why we can't. So there you go.
Okay, Keith, your thoughts?
I think you measure success differently. Like I think everybody looks at maybe where we finish in the league, and I think that's important. But I think the first thing we'll do is increase the squad by the same jump forward as we did in January. I think it's important that there's a lot of press and a lot of claims is looking at about evolution rather than revolution. I get all that, but I think that we had a difficulty in January. We all agreed that people wouldn't come to Newcastle because of our league position. There's a lot of people who wouldn't come and entertain us. So the fact we finished 11th should remove that from the claim. I still don't think we're going to take the top Champions League players, but I think we can go from just behind that. And I think we need to add, 5 or 6 players to that squad. I really do. I don't think it's 3 or 4. I think we need 5 or 6 players who could get a game. It doesn't matter how you look at it. When Shelby's not in there, there's going to be shortage of defensive midfield. We woefully weak up front. You know what I mean? If Wood and Gale goes, you've got Callum Wilson, and you've got he's got injury record, and by God, we hope he stays fit because he looked unstoppable last couple of games. But you need a couple of strikers. You need some midfield players. You need like attacking midfield players. You need a left back, whether it's Target or whoever. You need to get a left back, and you need another centre half. And if you get rid of Fernandes, Clark, and Lascelles, you talk about needing a couple of centre halves straight away, decent ones. So for me, I'd judge success as being the leap forward that the squad had in January being done in those kind of sizes, you know, that kind of turnaround, because to get the 11th from being 19th was remarkable, but now we need to make that jump again. If you're talking about league position, I don't think these owners would accept anything below top 8. I think if they spend again, I think they would require to see top 8 or have reasons for we didn't get top 8. Personally, I think we can get top 6 this year. I know 7th is an easier say, but I think with what's going to come in and the fact that one team always does poorly, Man United were poor this year, Arsenal stuttered and stopped and started. So I honestly think we can make top 6. I don't think we can go anywhere near the top. I think you know the strength of Liverpool and Man City, and then you saw Tottenham coming later. Was Chelsea are good, but I think with the money they've got, they'll go back to being powerful again, and that they're going to make some big signings. So that is really that's to break into in time in the future. But I think we can get, you know, I think 6th place is an ambitious but makeable target. But I think we need to finish 8th, 7th, or 6th to continue the progress we made. Somebody could say we were 11th, so if we finish 10th, that's better. But I don't see 10th this year with who we're going to bring in and get out as being progress. And from a dreamer's point of view, you know, the bloke who's give you a list of 16 to change, I would like to see us win a cup or qualify for Europe. I think we can.
There you go. John has announced it there. Just a little update. The season ticket for the members draw will be in the Platinum Club. If we can't get the ticket, the prize will be £1,000 cash. Good luck, everyone. And 3 weeks today will be the draw. So there you go. Get yourself to join the membership part of NUFC Matters. Go to nufcmatters.com. Mitch, I mean, do you think the owners, including this guy with a dodgy pair of shades on, will be looking to get into Europe next season? I'm sure I recognise him. I've seen him somewhere before, that guy.
I mean, yeah, I think they'll be. They'll want success, and they'll want success not immediately but quickly. They'll want.
He's getting sun.
He's getting sun, isn't he? They'll want to see progress in every aspect. For me, success would be top 8, never involved once in the conversation for the relegation mix, and respect the cups. Give a decent cup run somewhere, and I think that to me is success on a number of levels. To even just give with that little bit of hope, because it's the hope that's coming back, and the hope that we've missed for 14 years, and the ability to dream. And so I think that would be what success would look like to me. Mm-hmm. In particular, never being mentioned in regarding the bottom 6, never being mentioned, you know, thinking about looking over our shoulder for a season, because how long is it since we've really been able to do that? And I think the gap for us to top 8 is not big at all with the squad we've got. We've proved that in the terms of the turnaround from Christmas. And so top 8 is very achievable. It's not an unreasonable target, and I think would be a fine target to have in mind, and anything else is a bonus. Because I think if we were to get in the mix further up, we've shown what momentum we can build. And momentum can do a lot for you. It did a lot for us getting out at the bottom. And so we've shown we can do it, we've proved we can do it. So let's set some reasonable targets. And I don't think any of those are unreasonable at all. And then see where the journey takes us. Because we're going to have quality players coming in. There's no doubt about that. The quality of our squad will improve. I have absolutely no doubt about that.
Yeah, I'd agree. Ian, it just shows you let anybody in this director's box. I mean, that's a great photo, one, mate. It's a good one for the mantelpiece.
Well, the thing is, I just wanted to show like Jake and Elwood and like Eddie Howe, I'm on a mission from God. That's all there is to it.
I'm going to ask you. You can confirm you didn't get that ticket from the Conservative member of Parliament for Burnley, did you, by any chance? I hope not.
No, I actually got it from Newcastle United.
Oh, very nice.
And not that well-known liberal, Alistair Campbell, Burnley fan.
Well, funnily enough, actually, I met him. He was there. He was in the director's box, and shall we say that Mr. Lavery and myself and Mr. Campbell had some friendly banter.
I bet you did. Before Ian goes, I want to touch on a subject that Blue Rhythm Boy brought, but I do want to say happy birthday, and it's a belated one. Although I did manage to remember to send him something. It's happy birthday to Stephen. He's on Twitter at Megatron1978. 42 years old. He's worked for the North East Ambulance Service for over 20 years, and his partner, Paige, sent me an email asking if I could send him something through the post, which I did. That's the kind of person I am. He most recently saved a 30-year-old woman's life whose placenta had given way and lost 2.5 litres of blood. Not to mention, he worked through the most recent pandemic. I love Paige's emails when he's a big fan of you and your podcast, especially as it's never off my TV, which we often fight over. She went, I'm not a football fan. However, I can hum your whole theme tune. So happy birthday, mate. Thanks for your support. And, you're a legend. I think round of applause from all of us as well. It's a hell of a job. It's a hell of a job you do. And so one of our local heroes, and I'm pleased that you get a lot of pleasure from the show. Hope you had a good day and hope your lass treated you. Last question before Ian goes. Ian, your memory of Gaza. It's his birthday today. Happy birthday to Gaza. Let's hope he's fitting well and celebrating with the water somewhere. I am going to bring him back to Newcastle again for another dinner, probably in September. Date to be confirmed. I've had 3 events with Paul. One was fantastic. One was a car crash, and one was hit and miss. I'm going to bring him back for a 4th one in September. Let's hope he's fitting well. But what's your favourite memory of Gaza, Ian?
Well, I mean, not really football related, but I remember years ago, I was working on a voluntary basis doing a charity fundraising week at the Metro Centre. And Gaza just wouldn't stay away. He just kept coming and supporting me, and it was really, really good. I think he came about 2 or 3 times during the course of the week, and he was just like your heart of gold, top man. Absolutely top man. Really, really nice bloke. Just pity about the people that used him.
Yeah, Steve, your happiest memory?
That goal he scored in the cup midweek when the ball stuck in the stanchion.
Crystal Palace.
Palace game. For me, that was Paul at his cheekiest, at his most brilliant in a black and white shirt. But the way that he matured and took on the rest of the world during Italia 90, where we saw what an absolute world-class footballer he was, and we already knew. Obviously, he was already at Spurs, but we already knew what a talent he was. And then he got on that stage and he showed everybody else what we'd been shouting about for years. Fantastic footballer. Wish him all the best. Hope he's doing well.
Yeah, Keith.
I think publicly, I think it's probably the England goal against Scotland, because when someone does something that you would do yourself, and when he flicked that ball over and did that, and then fell over and started doing the dentist chair celebration. There's only Gaza could have scored that goal and could have done that celebration. But one of the funniest things I heard, a few months ago, his sister works in the back page in the Metro Centre with Mickey Edmondson, and he turned up there one day, and Mickey tells the story better, but he turned up and there was a delivery outside. It's like the Metro Centre where you've got to, what a chew on it is to get back to the shops to deliver. And the kid comes in to deliver. And the kid was pushed for his deliveries, and Mickey had been nagging the kid to come. And Gaz says, I'll go and get this delivery in for you. So he put a hat on, put a jacket on, and went out as though he's like working the shop. And told the kid that they didn't want it no more. There was a wrong order, and he'd have to take it back. The kid was nearly in tears. And Gaza took his hat off, and the kid still didn't twig. And Gaza was talking to him, and he goes, look, if you knock it down half price, I might take it. Kid was looking, and eventually he looked and realised who it was. And he told Gaz he didn't have a dad, but Mickey said, he says, we're all stood down the door, we're literally crying. But it's the ability for a man who's a megastar to just say, look, I'll go and take that delivery and I'll go out. And he ultimately made the kid's day, because that kid will carry that story forever. but I think it's because he's so touchable and so real that everybody that goes to your next show, Steve, will pray your fourth one's like your first one, because we all want them to succeed. We all want them to be great. You know what I mean? We want them to enjoy the adulation of what he's achieved. So when you hear there's a car crash on a do, it's upsetting for us, and it would be for him. So I just pray your next do goes well, and get tickets and go to it.
Can we just confirm, Steve, before what you said, Keith? To Paul doing something that you could do. I presume you were talking about lying on the floor and having
with a drink, like belly flopping.
You know, taking the ball over your shoulder, chipping it over a quality defender, and then slotting the ball past the goalkeeper. I knew that wasn't you. I knew you were.
Listen. I used to be a legend in my own mind. Don't forget.
Steve, apologies. I've really got to go, mate. I do apologise.
Thanks very much, Ian. It's been great having you on, mate. Take care, and we'll hopefully catch up with you again.
Cheers, mate. Enjoy it.
Cheers, Ian.
Look after yourselves and stay safe, everybody. Okay.
Bye, mate.
Cheers.
Bye.
Take care, mate. Bye-bye. Great to have Ian on, as always, with a few of his dad jokes as well, it has to be said. Yeah. Always very good.
That's the first time I met him. Nice.
Is it? Wow. He's a top lad. Mitch, your memory of Gaza?
You've covered them all, really. I mean, the Palace goal, the Vinnie Jones ball grabbing incident, the whole of Euro 96, and wishing his studs had just been a quarter of an inch longer. Yep. But for me, it's actually John Gibson's tales of him at Lazio. Some of the tales Gibbo tells of him at Lazio, particularly the one about the motorbike and wearing the stormtrooper helmet and driving it home through the traffic and giving the visa to him and to Gibbo and his dad in the car behind. Classic Gaza. I've heard those stories so many times, and they make me belly laugh every time. And the stuff in there, which, he lived a dream that we all would have loved to have lived. And I just wish he'd had more of the right people around him sometimes. Because
parking the Harley in the front room. What was the other one? Parking the Harley half a mile away from the Lazio ground, and then hopping in the car so that they didn't know that he'd been travelling all the way on the bike because it was banned. All of those fantastic stories, aren't they? Brilliant.
Yeah, great.
Brilliant.
Great stuff. Okay, time for Tweet of the Week. Gonna have to whiz through these. I'm off to the Pet Shop Boys tonight as well. I'm looking forward to that. Greatest Hits tour at the Academy. I want to say well done to Sam Fender as well. What a gig that was at the City Hall this week. I was privileged to be there. Great to see a local lad doing well, and fantastic gig. Well done to War Flags and Big Dan Byrne, who was there waving a flag as well. Excellent to see. Okay, Tweets of the Week. This week, some great ones, and Zara is on full effect. I'll come to hers in a minute. Jacob put this one. I'm not sure which look is worse, Bruce, Mike Bassett, or my shirt. Yes, I did have that shirt on again, and it got a bit of attention, but it hasn't. I'm not going to chuck it away. Some of these, if you're easily offended, look away now. And I make no apologies for showing this. I had an absolute belly laugh at this one. Ian Wilson said, people in the know delivering NUFC transfer news that they've heard from a reliable source. And Banana Man, I thought Harold Shipman died years ago. That just makes your mind wander, I'm afraid. But so true. Danny Bin Salmon says, staff at Wembley felt it was appropriate to improve the signage in the gents' toilets in the Sunderland end. And you just see the sign on there. Again, I don't need to explain that. This one was great from Albit. He says, forget about Gulf Saudi as a sponsor. We all know who the best is. And there he's put a Geordie Jeans bag.
Geordie Jeans.
Over the front of the Newcastle top. Liam Gallagher is...
Steve,
yeah.
Got some info on that you might want to touch on later.
All right, okay, good stuff. Liam Gallagher, he's not quite William Shakespeare. LFC nearly won the league. Spunk Bubble FC. Thanks for that, Liam. Very eloquent as usual. Stu Penman, watching Man City's medal and trophy presentation, I can't help thinking I hope Masters is there to congratulate each and every one of our players when we win the league. And in turn, I hope each and every one of our players give them the middle finger. Love that, Stu. Very succinct.
Absolutely brilliant.
To the point. Darren Curry, Burnley joined Premier League rivals and objecting a Newcastle takeover, of course. That was in 2021. And it's karma, says Darren. How true you are with that one, yeah. Alexa, show me a bell, double standard as its finest. And Oliver Holmes make another appearance. Add my voice to those praising this piece by Jonathan Liu on Manchester City. Beautifully written and beautifully observed. Yes, Oliver. You're featuring on this programme a little bit too much for my liking. Wayne Bennett says, I wonder what the interview was for. Very good. Very good. This one from Beth. Teachers are dressing as British icons for work. Some of the Spice Girls, some of the Chuckle Brothers. However, who else was I going to be, said Beth. Alan Shearer. Fantastic, Beth. Brilliant. I love that. Brilliant. Good to see. This one, Rocky Toon. See, BBC has done an update. Eddie Howe was robbed. Now, you might not, you might only understand the significance of that if you'd seen the news story this week, where BBC News allowed this to go out on the screen.
God, it was incredible.
Which was followed by this. And it turns out that there was a person who was learning how to do graphics, and they, for whatever reason, allowed him to do it on the actual main news show. So he typed in Manchester United are rubbish. That was brilliant. And rain everywhere for the weather. Fantastic. Andy Sixsmith, this was from Zara. Eddie Howdini. Brilliant. Loved that, Andy. Andy's becoming a bit of a star on Twitter. I've known him for years since he started off on local TV, and he's very, very good reporter. So pleased for my SAFC mates, back where you belong. The championship, yes, there was a lot of gesticulating and celebrating from my Sunderland mates. Newcastle United FC, of course, it's Big Frank Chipper. As a goodwill gesture, Newcastle United will return Chris Wood free of charge. Dear me, Frank. Our son. Rob M. Kamara on 175k a week. Carlos getting 200k a week. Steven Gerrard is the reason they signed, though. I did like that, Rob. I did like that. Sean Casey was told we are close to wrapping up a significant deal. Not Henderson or Paqueta. Barnetta finally, said New York Magpie. Zara, honestly, Zara's pinged a load of these over to us this week. I did love this as well as a Jimmy Nail fan. I've developed an obsession with Jimmy Nail and fantasized about being with him, being a happily married lesbian. I'm not sure how to process this, said Festival. Jess comes and said, she's lying. Very good. Very good, Jess. Very good. Brian said, nice little bit of comedy on a Thursday afternoon. Christ, not at 600k per week, we're not. Talk sport. Newcastle tipped and make sensational Neymar move as Eddie Howe's summer additions. Last couple of tweets. This one, Ian, you love doing these. My grandmother used to give me money if I sang ABBA songs for her. He told reporters, I love to sing Fernando.
Oh, God.
Oh.
Very good, very good. This one from Caitlin. You deserve it for your ma telling us I was shite at tennis as a 10-year-old silly six-toed Macam Divvy, said Caitlin. at the fact that he blew the league. Last two. The top two, keep NUFC in the Premier League. The difference when going into the Championship, Newcastle fan in agony and tears, Sunderland fans celebrating as if they've just won 183 million in the lottery. And the winner this week for Tweet of the Week, T. Houston. I thought monkeypox was a hoax. Then I saw their face. Now I'm a believer. Very good. Very good. Keep them coming in. Send them to me. Send them to Mitch. Send them to Keith, or send them to Steve Hasty, and we will pick them up. And Zara, as I say, she was on form this week. Maybe send a few to Zara as well. That's Tweet of the Week. As you know, we do like a laugh on this show. Here's Elliot. Now, this is an absolute belter, this, lads. Elliot Sless says, joke of the week is, a bride on her wedding night says to her husband, I must confess, darling, I used to be a hooker. He says, that's a bit of a shock, dear, but I must admit, I find it quite erotic. Tell me about it. She replies, well, my name was Nigel and I played for Wigan. Very good, Elliot. Keep them coming. We will feature them, as I say, each week on the show. Did enjoy that one, though. I've got to be said. Okay, just away from Newcastle, the playoff game. Who do you think is going to come up, Steve?
Forest, I think. Although, having watched them last week, I thought Huddersfield seemed to be. I had Forest as the form team, and then I saw Huddersfield and their run and the way that they've kept their shape and kept that performance, and I wondered whether Forest were really going to struggle because missing out on that playoff, on that final promotion day at the end of the season, and I thought it was a little bit harsh for them. But I'm going to stick with Forest. I thought Forest, from where they've come from, literally rock bottom of the league when they got rid of Chris Hughton, and then Cooper taking them all the way into what looked like a permanent spot. One of the top two, but not quite doing it. So I'm going to stick with Forest. Okay, Keith.
Forest. I think when they do come, I think that, I know people sign people, but the lad we sold them, you know what I mean? He was miles away from our team. We made a bad side, and you look at some of the players that's getting a game. The gap seems huge. You know what I mean? It seemed. I know it's a tough league and it's hard to get out of, but I think Forest will turn Huddersfield over. But I think that's what I was thinking of the day when the people talk about Sunderland getting up, and in the Championship. That's a tough league. That we it's the only year in the last 10 years where we made a loss. Was getting out the Championship, and it's a really, really tough. It's a tough amount of fixtures, but I think Forest will get up. I think they'll go back down. I really do.
Yeah, it seems to be the way. Mitch, what about you? Any preference?
Well,
who do you fancy?
Just to compound how such a topsy-turvy league it is, Huddersfield did start the season with third favourites to go down.
Yeah.
And then here they are in the playoff final.
Good point.
It's an absolutely horrible league. It's like quicksand. The more you struggle, the further you sink in the bloody thing. It's us teams like Forest and Leeds and the Mackhams, and we were really lucky in respect to get out first time both times. Actually took with them.
Yeah.
It's what you've got to do. It's your only real chance. I actually fancy Huddersfield.
They're a good set of lads, and they've got great team spirit. So
yes.
If you're looking for a nice club, Huddersfield, and I've got a mate who's Huddersfield supporter, and he says he doesn't think they'll beat Forest, but he says if it was on nice people, committed, low wage, or everything, they're just a real top-notch club.
I think there will be Forest personally, and you're absolutely correct, Keith. The gulf for that third place team coming up the Premier League is getting to the point where it's getting the gap is getting sillily big.
Massive.
It's huge, and they'll do well to if they do come up, they'll do well to steal because the gulf is huge.
Okay, Champions League final, Steve.
Oh, aye.
Right. Well, this is an interesting one because what I was going to go for Liverpool, but you know what? Benzema's on form, and I think Liverpool's Achilles heel, and I know it's going to sound ridiculous, but it's when Van Dijk and whoever plays alongside him are up against a top-class striker. And in the Premier League, it doesn't happen very often. But I think that the way that Liverpool, and I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, the way that Liverpool's set up with the two wide fullbacks who push on and the midfield who have to sit deep to protect the middle two in the back four, and I think they get away with murder. And I think Benzema, who if he does manage it, should deserve to get the Ballon d'Or this season. I think that the momentum that and the never say die attitude that Real seem to have adopted will be too much for them. So I'm going to go, controversial as it is, I'm going to go for Real Madrid and Benzema to be the man who does them.
Okay, Keith, Champions League prediction.
I wouldn't dare do anything but predict Liverpool to win. I've got a really good mate, John, who's on holiday with Scouser, and I'm going out to see him this year. And over the years, I don't mind admitting, Liverpool's been the second team I'd look for in the Premiership. They've always been, someone I've wanted to see grow and do well. I think it comes from Shankly's ages and 70s, 80s when it was. But so I think Liverpool will do it. I think the manager's exceptional, and I think that Mane is still. Don't get us wrong, Salah's good, but I think Mane is unplayable at times, and I think Liverpool will do it. I think they nearly won the league last week. That was the only minute we ever win the league, so I think Liverpool will do it. And the other reason is because I dislike Everton probably more than any other team in the Premiership. Scouse Macklands. So I would like to do just to sit and laugh back at them because they're horrible. They're just an awful set of people.
Okay, Mitch, Champions League prediction.
Yeah, Real Madrid has shown this season against a lot of top sides. Barcelona in their own division, against Chelsea and Man City in the Champions League. They're like one of these boxers who looks like they're losing on points and then they do their work in really horrible, brutal, short bursts. A bit like Chris Eubank used to. You'd think he was losing a fight and then he'd absolutely rip into someone with a really brutal assault at the end of a round, and suddenly they're covered in cuts and they're all over the place, and it doesn't look so bad. And they've got this ability that once they get a team on the back foot, they can really hurt them. And I think where you're right, Steve, is that while one of Liverpool's greatest assets is that fullbacks who can overlap and attack. That is an area where they could be exploited by a team like Real Madrid. Modric seems to have dropped a little deeper and he's pulling the strings with these balls into those kind of areas. And the young lads they've got in the team, they've got the legs to do it. I think it'll be close, but I'm tipping Real Madrid to do it.
Yeah, it's for me. I think Forest will come up. I hate to say that, Rachel, and good luck with your podcast tonight with John Sinclair. Just think of everybody naked. That's what they normally say if you're doing something for your first time, doing a performance. And you've got the experience. You'll be fine. Maybe just don't think of people naked. And sorry again for causing any offence. But yeah, just enjoy it. Breathe. Think, put your brain in gear before you speak, and then go from that. But yeah, I think Forest and I think Liverpool are going to do it. I think Forest and Liverpool will get the results this weekend. What is our local tips? I think here we'll go.
Evening everyone, Toon Tipster here with a quick video update. No game for us for a while now, and I'm bored already. Mind you, there are a few positives, like not having to be seen in public with Wraith, Patterson, Hasty or Joe Linton's dad for a few months will do wonders for my street cred around NE1 and me wallet. I did have a bigger script this week, however Aston Villa saw it and they've took it to use on their own podcast. Cheeky gets. Anyway, 2 massive games this weekend to look forward to if you're interested. Starting on Saturday with the Champions League final. Even money for Liverpool, 11-4 the draw and 5-2 for Real Madrid. So there's money to be made, whatever you think the result will be. Both teams to score is 4-6, whilst Mo Salah and Karim Benzema top the anytime goal scorer charts. 11-1 if you think Liverpool will win on penalties, 12-1 if you think Madrid will. On Sunday, we go to Wembley for football's biggest game. And it was about time there was a couple of decent teams on at Wembley. Huddersfield take on the Reds of Nottingham Forest. Huddersfield 5-2. The draw 23-10. And Forest a 23-20. So again, all positive odds, money to be made if you pick the right one. I fancy Forest and Real Madrid in a double at just under 6.5 to 1 for a bit of value. More sensibly though, if you fancy Liverpool and Forest, you can have 3 to 1. Anyway, I'm going to get going and I'll see you all on Monday for the hottest transfer show in town. Please bet safe. Love you. Take care. Tipster.
What the hell was that end? God! Just give him his own show.
That was him in the car. Christ.
Give him a Monday night show with me on a Monday.
I tell you what, he's in a dog and lay-by there, like.
He is definitely. Thank you, Joe. He was supposed to be on live, but there was a last-minute change, and he sent us the video. So that's a consummate professional. And yes, Fans Forum takes a break now until August, and replacing it will be the transfer show with me and Joe. He's itching at the chance to get a full show under his belt, so that is his opportunity. We will be trying to siphon our way through all the rubbish, and we'll probably have a few guests on as well throughout the summer to chat with. But yeah, looking forward to doing that with Joe. Okay, yeah, as I say, we have to cram everything into the end of the show. Here we go. Tune lookalike. Inundated, absolutely inundated with these this week, and not all Steve Hastie's. Starting off with this one, which is from Geordie Tune for Life, Michael Jackson and Gus Poyet, which is pretty good. I'd never actually saw that, to be honest. But yeah, Geordie Tune for Life, I did like that one, and not Michael Jackson, the Moonwalker, of course. This one is from our good friend. Very simple. One from Albert. He hasn't gone to Steve Hastie straight away, but it is good. He then went into some kind of 80s remix with this one, putting me and Steve Hastie in, Adam and the Ants. I don't know whether I was part of that thread. Still don't understand it to this day. Now, when I was watching Gareth Ainsworth last week against the Mackhams, I took a photograph of it and went, I'm going to actually submit this as a lookalike. But no, Albert got in ahead of us. Ainsworth sacked Hastie in after applying 2 bottles of Cushion 2000.
Oh.
Yeah, very good. Okay, Tom Dixon. Tom Dixon has Richard Gere and Gareth Barry as his first submission this week. His second submission is Karim Benzema and Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah,
very, very good, mate. Very good. And his next one, James Van Der Beek and Joe Hart.
Good one.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And this one, Benjamin Bratt and Cristiano Ronaldo.
Wow, dear me.
Really good.
So a couple of good ones there. Thank you for them. This one from Sutty, a rare case of monkeypox has been identified in the UK. That was brilliant, mate. Absolutely brilliant. Did like that one. This one was from Stu Penman, the Mackham chairman, and Chris Parker.
Scott Parker.
Scott Parker, sorry, yeah.
Aye, it's good, that.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you for that, Stu. I'm not sure how Mick will feel about this one from Sutty. Mick Lowe's lookalike, Fred Elliott off Coronation Street.
Oh, not like that.
My pork pies are succulent. I say succulent. Very good. Thank you.
Ashley.
Thank you for that. Sam Chipperfield says, bye, what's happened to Keith here, lads? You used to like Sam. This one was from Richard. He says, one for the lookalikes on the 3 Amigos. Have you been moonlighting in the US sitcom Young Rock? Must have been hitting the gym hard. That must be me, not you, Keith. Mark Pearson, lookalike Neil Warnock and Nicky Lauda. I don't know why on earth you've used that photo of Nicky Lauda. I mean, it's awful, but a bit of Neil Warnock in there, I guess. I'm not sure how Neil Warnock would feel about that, but I'm sure he doesn't watch the show. Jimmy Moore says, Toon lookalike. Didn't know that I knew Neil Warnock, and there is Neil Warnock. Thank you, comparing us to Pep Guardiola. This was brilliant from Tyler. One of our owners, and is it Gundogan?
Yeah, it's good.
Very good.
Very good.
A bit of thought went into that. Not that I'm saying Albert doesn't put thought in. Colour codes. Brucey's given up football to become a sheep farmer. Excellent. This one was from Sam, Jason Mohammed, and Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, aye. Yeah, we'll see that.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
These are all sensible, aren't they? It's nice.
For the art, the minute, Sam Chipperfield, Joe 90, and the Neville brother, Gary. And this one from Iceman, Avram Glazer and Ric Flair. A little bit, Iceman. Hope you're doing well in the family. This one was from Ian. Father Ted and the guy who was playing the guitar at the Mackems playoff game. This one, I'll get Steve Hasty. I know you'll get tagged in this for the Three Amigos show.
Yeah,
Anne Widdicombe is a toffee, but a lot of people are saying that was you, Steve, down at the Everton game. This one was from Ugly Camel, John Beresford and a statue of Thomas Buick. We're getting all arty now with these lookalikes. This one from Albert, Anton Duck. And you ready to rumble, Steve? Again, just having some great fun with Photoshop. This one was from Ugly Camel, Gaza and his ex-wife.
That's hilarious.
Some absolute belters of Joe this week. Albert Tatlow from Coronation Street.
Poor Albert.
And this one, John Darwin and Joe.
The canoe man.
Steve Neal, just another one from Albert, which I thought I'd include. Coming into the cream of the crop now. This one from Sam. Time for Steve Hasty to have a shave, lads. And then it just goes from the sublime to the ridiculous. Is it Steve or maybe Richard Branson? That must have been done before about 20 times. The new one to the course, Steve Hasty, Cameron Doppelganger. We've got some really good ones coming in now. This one, this was from Reggie. This said Steve Hasty doll. This one from Jimmy Wilson, Hasty lookalike. And this one was great from Stephen. He says, look like Steve Hasty as a baby.
I'm going to get some pictures out.
And the last couple, this one, Kipper McFish, a Toon lookalike short story. There's Steve, the child. And this one, again, doing a short story. Again, that's honestly, people are just obsessed with having you in these things. Well, I've got a couple of them. I did like this one. I've got to say, out of all of them, I do feel that one's the winner. I think certainly nailed it. But this one, I will give this one a mention as well, Brian. Steve, are you the Man United manager? I can't believe it. You even stuck Steve McLaren with you. That completes the lookalikes for this week. Some absolute belters. Don't forget, send them to me and the lads, and we will endeavour to get through them all next week. Fantastic, those. Some of them I do miss the point. Albert constantly misses the point. Right, John's quiz, which he does every 4 weeks, and then there's a little prize at the end of it. 28th of November 1960 was the first clue. Clue 2, born in the felon. Born in the felon. So there you go. Write those 2 answers down, and what we have is another 2 weeks of clues, and then you will be able to come up with an answer, and we'll ask you for the answer in the chat, and you will win a prize. Okay, just time to squeeze Julie's favourite part of the show in. Short but sweet this week. You know you're a CNT, Steve. Give up. Thanks, Liam. Thank you, mate. Thank you. That is the simple troll of the week this week. Don't forget, you can vote for your player of the season. Next week, we'll be doing a season review on all the shows, Monday through to Friday, and we will want to know who your player of the season is. You can just go to the website, nufcmatters.com. You can vote for free, and just so you can play your part. Let's see who the NUFC Matters community feels is the player of the season. Just go to nufcmatters.com and vote tonight. Just takes 2 seconds to do that. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to Ian Mearns. Thanks to Joe. Thanks to Steve. Thanks to Keith. And thanks to Mitch. Have a good weekend, lads, and see you next week. Take care.
All the best. Cheers. Take care.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye.